Yes.
Just
Last
me?
name?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it is 7:08 p.m. It is April 30th, 2020. This is the Bronx Community Board 11 full board meeting for April 2020. So let me pull up the agenda for everybody. I know we want to do a moment of silence.
I didn't hear my name, Joe Bacon. I didn't hear you call that.
Yes, I called. Got you for me, and I heard you too.
Motion for
The current agenda, which is uploaded as late as 5 p.m.
Right.
And then Chris sent it out again, thankfully. It's like right before the meeting. Harriet's going to write down speakers. Can everybody who's using a computer see the agenda? I will zoom in. I hope I can zoom in.
I don't know.
I'll zoom in.
What will on my computer?
Okay. Sure.
Yeah, we see it.
Okay. Good? Okay.
That's good.
All right. So is that Bernadette?
Yes.
Okay. Great. All right. So let me stop sharing. Can we have, who wants to play timekeeper, Sergeant of Arms? Crano cannot be here tonight. Anybody would like to volunteer to be Sergeant of Arms?
Jeremy, this is Joe Mentor. I'll do it if you need somebody to do it.
Dominic, you do it.
Let me see if everybody's unmuted.
Yeah, I can't do it because the stopwatch on my thing, the same phone that I'm using.
All right, let's have somebody that's using a computer. Don would be great, but he can't because he's not using a computer. It'd be easier if somebody can mute or unmute themselves. I muted everybody right now. So Joe Menta, did you volunteer? I'm sorry, did I hear you volunteer?
Yes, Jeremy, I'll volunteer. I don't know how you want to do it in this forum, but I'm happy to do it.
Okay, well, we're going to start with a moment of silence. So, and then you're going to keep the guest speakers. We have one gallery session speaker, and unless somebody else notified us of a gallery session speaker, which we'll come back to, you have to notify us before the start of the meeting. We have one gallery session speaker currently, and then elected official.
Mr. Salcedo has left the meeting.
So maybe we can do a 30-minute moment of silence, Joe?
All right, I'd like to ask everybody if we could please have a 30-second moment of silence for our fallen first responders and those that are dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic. 30 seconds of silence, please. Okay, Jeremy.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you. Let me share my screen for the agenda again. Bear with me. So we have the here. Jay, Lieutenant Valbruga, are you able to unmute yourself?
Yes, we are. How are you? How are you?
Great. How are you?
Good.
Any updates for us? I know you attended our public safety committee meeting last week, but
Yes,
if you have any updates, we'd love to hear them. Or if you want to rehash a bit of last week.
okay. As of now, most of the personnel from the 49 precinct have come back. We still have I want to say 5-6 people out who are still experiencing symptoms from COVID. Most of the other people are back. I myself have finally gotten back all my NCOs. I had a couple of them that were out for a while, and they're all back now, so it's great. I'm just going to go through the crime statistics real quick for everybody. For the 28-day, We're 0 for 0 for murders. Rape, we're at 1 versus 2 from last year. Robberies, we're down really big, 6 versus 16. Felony assaults, we're down as well, 12 versus 23. And then unfortunately, burglaries, we're up big, 13 versus 5. Grand larcenies, we're down 15 versus 28. And again, grand larceny of an auto, we're up unfortunately 15 versus 2. Also in the 28-day period, we had a shooting at 2509 Kruger Avenue. That individual was apprehended that day with the firearm still in his possession. So he's no longer out on the streets. That was a dispute over what believes to be narcotics, and that's over with now.
Okay. So any board members have questions that, let's start with the computer people, and then I'll mute everybody else. This is for the 4-9 precinct. Anybody
Hello.
using the computer? Go ahead. Who is it?
Debbie.
Go ahead, Debbie Colic.
Yes, the
Participant
robbery
has
at
joined the meeting.
Stillwell Avenue. The robbery at Stillwell Avenue, was there only one perpetrator or two? Because I thought I heard there was 2 perpetrators and you caught one.
The robbery at Stillwell Avenue, I don't know off the top of my head in terms of who was caught and regarding that. We'll get you the information. We'll get back to you.
Thank you.
Anybody else using a computer? And then I'll unmute it for the phone people.
Jeremy, I have a question for the precinct.
Is that Yahe? Who's that?
Yeah, this is Yahe.
Okay.
A few days ago, I called 911 approximately 2:30 in the morning. There was an individual on a bicycle driving up and down the block, looking to get into vehicles. I was watching it as it was happening, so I did call 911. I was up until about 6 in the morning. I didn't see any police respond. Is it something that they would respond to, or how would that work?
An individual, go through your question again, Yahe. It was you saw an individual checking door handles?
Yeah, I just happened to open up my camera and I see him driving, going up the block, looking at each car, just pulling the handles, and then he went back down the block, pulling handles again. I called 911. I gave a really good description. I just wasn't sure if anything came out of it or any break-ins that occurred on or around my area at the time.
What location was that where you saw it?
It was near Matthews area. Matthews Avenue in Bronxdale.
Matthews Avenue. Okay, Matthews and Bronxdale. I don't think of anything, but that's something we definitely would respond to. Unfortunately, right now, with everyone being home, when you quarantine with COVID and everything else, that's something we take very seriously, and we would respond to that. Especially because a lot of people like to leave their valuables inside their car, and sometimes people unfortunately leave their cars unlocked. We definitely get there because there's a lot of times that we can want to prevent something before it turns into something more.
Thank you.
Unless there's somebody else from the computer, I'm gonna open it up to the phone people. All right, please mute yourself, everyone. Everybody, please mute yourself who's not speaking. Okay, I'm gonna mute everybody, unmute everybody again. I need you to be prepared to mute yourself. Unfortunately, and again, unless somebody has a better idea, I don't know a better way. So I'm going to unmute the phone people. Again, this is why the computer is, one reason why the computer is better. I know you're tired of me hearing me say that, but it is a spade's a spade. I'm going to unmute everybody. For those of you using a computer, please mute yourself. Or I'll just start going through and start muting everybody who's using a computer as well. All right. Whoever wants a question for the 4-9. All right, I'm gonna say no then. I'm gonna assume no. All right, so then let's move on with your agenda. I'm going to mute everybody again. I'm muting everybody again. I'm going to share the agenda again. Try to. Okay. So we have, I believe we have Dr. Salcedo. Excuse the mispronunciation, Salcedo, from the Union. Yes, from the Union Community Health Center. She's the Director of Wellness and Health Promotion there. And she's going to talk about healthcare fears, social determinants of health, and behavioral health. And questions are for board members only. Questions or comments that you can respond to are by board members only. And at 4 at most. Mr. Menta, are you prepared to time Dr. Salcedo?
Yes, I am. I'll give Dr. Salcedo a 30-minute courtesy acknowledgement.
Thank you very much, Joe. You have 2 minutes, Dr. Salcedo. Go ahead.
Thank you for this opportunity. As Darian mentioned, I am Dr. Vanessa Salcedo from Union Community Health Center, and usually I deal with different initiatives in the clinic and in the community. Now with COVID, my main focus is doing COVID response and outreach. So first of all, we're very devastated with what's going on with our patients and the community. And we're here to talk to you about any fears that you might have, any misinformation. We are proactively reaching to our vulnerable population, trying to set up appointments with them, getting them engaged as much as we can through social media, our website, and through our providers, because it is a lot going on. And we know that our patients are suffering, either suffering from griefs and deaths from family members and friends, and we are promoting our health behavior services to our community. And we know that our patients and our community is suffering from social determinants of health, that we all know that health is just not only about healthcare and medicine. We know that health is about food, health is about shelter, health is about everything around us. So we are actively promoting. We've come up with resources that you guys have all shared with us, available for the community. And we're having our doctors talk about these things to our patients, because these are the things that our patients are really talking about, that they don't have.
A participant has joined the meeting.
30 seconds, doctor, 30 seconds.
Perfect. So we really want to also emphasize the importance that right now the numbers are of transmission for COVIDs are lows, our admissions are low, but we are all very on alert, especially for our vulnerable population that is all the Bronx, that we want to make sure that our vulnerable population is really still stays at home, still as precaution, all our essential workers to please take the same precautions to wear masks, hand washing. So we're really promoting as much as we can for everyone to stay home, to stay safe, to protect ourselves and our community. And we really care about all of us in the community. We care about you. So anything we can do to help, please let us know. And we're here for you.
Thank you very much, doctor.
Do any board members have questions for the doctor? Let's start with the computer people first, obviously, because that's easiest. I know Sandy might have a question.
Hey, Jeremy, I got a question. It's Darrell.
Yeah, Darrell? Darrell?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, doctor, I just have one brief question. Testing sites, is testing readily available for any, Bronx person that can just walk in and ask for one, and, or you still, minimized on some of the testing you can do on certain individuals that showing symptoms or whatever have you?
Yes, unfortunately, testing has not been expanded, as they said. There are more testing sites, as you know, opening up in the city, but the New York City Department of Health really has limited us in terms of testings for our patients. So that's something that we are experiencing and having difficulties. And I want to piggyback on testing. Probably everybody's also wondering about antibody testings,
Right.
which means that, you know, have you been exposed? Are you protected now? That's another question that we all have as providers.
Anthony Italiano.
Has left the meeting.
It's not FDA approved, the testing yet. We just had a meeting today to find out if the different tests that are out there, are they covered by insurance? We know that urgent cares are offering this to patients pay out of pocket. So we really want to know how good these tests are. Are they covered before we start promoting it to our community? So we're actively trying to figure all this information out as we speak.
And are you getting any word on how fast they will start opening up the test to the public in general? You know, to anybody?
No, I wish we had that information. We don't, but that's something that we really know that is important for our community, is to test to help mitigate the disease. So one good news that I have for today, so there's a system called Bronx Rio. So Bronx Rio is sort of a centralized platform that can notify physicians about their patients if they're hospitalized. But now we found out that Bronx Rio has a special COVID alert. So if you go get testing and you're positive, they can let us know so we could follow up with you and make sure that you're doing okay. Because if you know you're positive, that doesn't mean that you're okay. We have to make sure that, you know, you're lower risk individual, that you don't have complications. So that's just one piece of the puzzle. So it's a whole effort, and we're trying to put those pieces together to really help our community.
All right, thank you, doctor.
Let me unmute Sandy Unger, because I believe, let me just make sure she has a question or not. Sandy, do you have a question for the doctor?
One big question is, because everyone else is addressing some of the questions I had, what is a phone number where we can contact the doctor or someone on her staff to find out about testing, if we can get testing, etc.?
So our phone number is, and I will make it, I could write it in the chat, and I will say it, 718-220-2020. So that's our phone number, and I will also put our website. See, and we have a lot of information on COVID, and a lot of the information is from the New York City Department of Health, but we're actively trying to make videos on behavioral health, on just tips to be safe. We're trying to do those in English and in Spanish.
Thank you.
All right, Debbie Kolick, you had a question? Debbie Kolick.
No, I don't. No, I don't.
Oh, somebody, I'm sorry.
Jeremy,
I misread. Oh, Al had a question. Al?
Yeah, doctor, are they using any of those experimental drugs like the hydrochloroquine or other drugs that are being outed as being helpful in this situation?
So I also, we have a strong relationship with
Patricia A. Charles has joined the meeting.
We have a lot of relationships with the hospitals, St. Barnabas Hospitals and Mount Sophia Hospital in the Bronx, and I know are using the drugs, the patients, and I know Montefiore has several trials going on to figuring out if these drugs are effective. Right now, as you heard maybe on the news yesterday, Rivancimab, the antiviral by Gilead, is showing promising results. It's still, everything's still in the works. We're trying to figure out if we're trying to figure out
Participant has left the meeting.
These drugs are working. And really what's also important is that we want to tell our patients, we know that the hospital emergency room numbers are low. So we want to make sure we tell the community itself that all doctors are still here. We're doing telemedicine, telephonic. We do have a rapid urgent care for extreme emergencies that cannot be do over the phone. So these are still available services. I know everybody's really scared to, but we want to make sure that our community is not suffering from their chronic diseases and worsening their diabetes and hypertension, suffering from strokes and heart attacks at home. We really want to make sure that you tell the community about not our services. This is across the board. Doctors in the Bronx and New York City have rapidly transformed their practices to online, as you guys have with your meetings, to really serve our community.
Thank you.
Thanks for calling me. So many people ask.
Sorry, I had to mute everybody. If there's a board calling at the cell phone and has a question, can you, maybe Dr. Salcedo can hang out now in the 4-9 just for a little bit longer.
Of course,
Text message me, Chris, call us. My phone number, if you don't have it, is 646-830-0832, 646-830-0832. Please call me or Chris or text me, whatever. And I'm going to go back to the agenda.
Jeremy, I have one last thing I forgot to mention. Also, pharmacies. A lot of our patients think they still need to go to the pharmacy to pick up their medication. Now, even the pharmacies have evolved. A lot of them are doing deliveries. We have partnerships with pharmacies, even nonprofit pharmacies, that if you don't have insurance, we can get you your medications. So our take-home message is please stay home to help stop the spread and also protect our medically vulnerable population. So thank you.
Okay. Is Councilmember Jonai join us?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay. Councilmember, would you like to address the board?
Yes, if it's appropriate.
We're going into elected official portions. So go ahead, Councilmember.
Thank you, Jeremy. Not sure if you all hear me well, but I first want to extend my sincerest condolences to all of those that have lost family members and loved ones during this crisis and pandemic. My prayers are with all of those that are currently battling this virus and fighting for their lives. I don't think any of us could have had a worse nightmare come true. From the devastation of loss of life to all of the uncertainties, our worlds have fallen apart in less than 2 months' time. I just want everyone to know that although my office is physically closed, we are taking phone calls, we're taking messages, emails, we're working. I'm out there every day helping and assisting in any which way I can. For those of you that don't have my phone number, it's 718-931-1721. I'll put it up on the chat as well as my email to stay in touch with you. Just wanted to give all of you a quick update. And first, I think we should acknowledge, or I should acknowledge, the sacrifices of our first responders, healthcare workers, and all of our essential workers that are on the front line today. They're risking themselves and their families by being out there, and we owe them a gratitude. I don't know how we can say thank you, but when we get through this, we'll have to think of a special way that we can show our appreciation to each and every one of those that were on the front line for us. I heard the Dr. Salcedo talking about testing and the importance of it. I've been pushing on the city council to have our essential employees tested. When we think of the supermarket worker, the cashier, for example, that is out there interacting with people on a daily basis, a single cashier sees up to 40 customers an hour. I've been asking the city to prioritize these essential workers. It could be unknowingly spreading a virus to all of our customers. We have some great supermarkets out there that are taking some extraordinary precautions by putting up glass shields and supplying all of the PPE that is needed to their employees. But I think it would be a priority to have those workers tested so that we know they're safe to be serving us, and it's for the protection of those employees as well. Insurance does cover us, as the doctor said, in most cases, and for those that don't, we're trying to work out how we can have them covered. We're in the process of negotiating our budget. Now, this is extremely different from previous budgets. We know that we're looking at a economic disaster. Our proposed budget has already been slashed by $6 billion for New York City. We want to make sure that those adjustments are made where it'll hurt the least amount. We want to make sure that our safety nets are still in place, that education is a priority, that our seniors are attended to, and everyone else in between. So we're discussing where those cuts will be falling in over the next month or so. We're continuing our hearings through Zoom. They're open to the public. I'd encourage you to participate and also share any thoughts that you have and actually testify when it comes to our budget hearings. Yesterday, I chaired the Small Business Committee hearing alongside of. Jeremy, did you just interrupt me?
I did not. Ken, are you on mute? Ken Gelnick? If you're not on mute, please mute yourself.
So yesterday, I chaired the Small Business Committee. It was a 6-hour hearing. And I have to tell you that I was quite upset when I found out the limited dollar amount that this administration put into loans and grants to assist our small businesses. The total amount that was allocated was $49 billion. The dollar amount, which $49 million, I apologize, for over 200,000 businesses. That is nothing. For our budget, that's a rounding error. And when it comes to meeting the needs of our small businesses, that doesn't even scratch the surface as a dollar amount. But what was more upsetting, to add insult to injury, is when I found out that only 1% of those loans made it to the borough of the Bronx. So we're going to be coming together as a delegation to make sure that this administration and the city recognizes the importance and the needs and the assessments that have to be made in the borough of the Bronx. We need that money, and we should be treated no differently than any other borough. To find out 66% of that very limited funding went to Manhattan and only 1% made its way to the Bronx is disgusting, unexcusable, and unforgivable. And I know that some of you that are on this chat group with us are small business owners. You should be as upset and irate as I am. And if you work for a small business, you should be as irate and upset as I am, and make sure that you make your voices heard. I know I will, and I'll continue to push for the borough to get what it's entitled to and what it deserves. I don't know if anybody has any questions for me. I know that you have a long agenda. So many people are lined up to speak. I know that Farah's from my office is on as well, and she has, I'm sure, some updates to share with you. We're doing food giveaways. We're doing limited giveaways of PPE and hand sanitizer. The need is so wide and so great, but I'm out there. And the only thing that I can share with each and every one of you is I'm available. Most of you have my cell phone number. For those of you that don't, you'll easily get it from Jeremy. But my office is fully operational, remotely, but fully operational. Thank you, Jeremy, and I want to thank the community board for what you're doing and for the trying times that we all have together. We're going to get out of it. We're in this together, and we're going to get out of it together. So I'm not sure if anybody has any questions for me.
Adit Scraley had a question. Adit.
Hi, Mark. So I heard that there's a bill proposed to basically halt all evictions until April of 2021, so until next year. I think that, anyone who's renting and anyone who is a property owner, everyone is facing difficulties, right? So you can't look at just at the tenants, like also the landlords are facing problems. Is there a way to get like the banks to like reduce the mortgage payments? Because obviously like the landlords still have to pay their mortgages. And even if you don't have to pay it right away, pushing it off until later doesn't mean that they still have to pay it back.
Edit, you bring up a great point. And, typically when we think of the landlord-tenant relationship, and we want to make sure that our tenants are not forced out into the street and not evicted for non-payment of rent due to these unique circumstances that were beyond their control, that we should have safety nets in place for them. But remember, the bill that we heard yesterday that came out of my committee is also talking about 2-family homes and 3-family homes and 4-family homes, some very small property owners that rely on those rents to pay their mortgages. And somebody's rent is somebody else's mortgage. If this was targeted to very large landlords, I would be more willing to understand and work with it. But when the banks, everybody's in a moratorium. What you should all be aware is nobody can be brought to housing court right now and be evicted for the next 90 days, and the state stepped in and the city. Now there was a proposal made that until April of 2021, you could not be evicted. Not that a landlord can't take an action against you, but the marshal would not evict a tenant. Now there's a wide implications that can come about from that. If everybody just stopped paying rent, it could be a disaster for the housing market altogether, because it would be a total collapse. But not excluding at least small properties, in particular, 2, 3, and 4-family homes. And that bill also covered commercial tenants as well. So we're in the middle of, yesterday was the hearing. We're evaluating all the testimonies that were made, and in the upcoming days and weeks, we'll be working on a bill to address that. But we want to make sure that our tenants during this crisis are not evicted. I don't want anyone to walk away thinking that if they don't pay their rent, no fault of their own, because they can't afford to, that they'll be homeless. We'll make sure that that doesn't happen to you.
Al, you had a question?
Yeah, Mark, this is a statement, not a question. One of the elected officials, state, federal, and city, that represent the Bronx, going to get together and stop this dumping on the Bronx. Everybody talks about what they're doing is wrong, and yet I don't see a consolidated effort by our elected officials to stop this. Coronavirus has hit the Bronx harder than any other borough per capita. We have the lowest education. We have the unhealthiest, poorest. We seem to take this borough for granted. And I don't see the elected officials coming together strong enough. It should be done. I think someone should call a meeting of all the elected officials, figure out what to do. Going on with,
Al, thank you. I think we all feel the same way. I was born in this Bronx. I was born in this great borough. I live here. My family, I was born and raised here. It seems that in good times, the Bronx is neglected, and in bad times, we're neglected. The delegation and the city council for the borough of the Bronx is coming together to push back. And I know that we're working with our elected officials up in Albany also to make sure that we get what we're entitled to. We're not asking for anything more than a fair share. Al, I promise you that we're going to continue to be loud. We're going to work collectively.
you guys have to do it as a consortium, a group. You can't do it individually. You're working with the city. Natalia's working with the state. Biagi's working with the state. Lacasio's working with the federal. I need you to get together in a room, come up with a plan on what you're going to do, how you're going to attack this situation, and get it done. I've been hearing this. I've lived in this borough for 76 years. And I've heard it every year since I was able to listen. It's still going on. Keep dumping on the Bronx and nothing changes. Guys say the same things over and over again. We're going to do this, we're going to do that, and nothing changes. Everything stays the same.
2 weeks ago, we had a delegation meeting with our electeds in Washington as a city council, and we broke up our agenda based on the needs and the assessments of the borough. We're coming together, and you're right, city, state, and federal must work together. No one branch of government can get us through this. It's impossible. And we're going to be relying heavily on the federal government because they're the ones who have the bigger checkbook to help get us through this mess. But that doesn't mean that the city council, alongside of Albany, shouldn't be focusing and prioritizing on our needs.
Yes, hi, good evening. My question goes back to, of course, 2 and 3 family homes and landlords. Again, is there any relief or postponement with the quarterly taxes that are upon us? So I was just, because Van Ness is mostly made up of 2 and 3 family homes, so I was just wondering if there was any relief on that front.
Bernadette, I put together a change.org petition asking for the suspension of real estate taxes, water and sewer charges that are coming up also in July. They're quarterly as well. And for our small businesses, sales tax and income tax, to help give everyone the opportunity to kind of figure out this new world that we're going to be in, to assess what we can do. And that would have given us the cash flexibility. Thus far, there is no movement on any of that. Now, I'm not saying that the fight is over. The city and the state are claiming that they need those funds to make sure that all of the other safety nets are in place, from police to sanitation to hospitals and healthcare workers. We get it, but there must be some type of delay in payment. Certainly, waiving of all penalties. I want you all to know that if you don't pay your real estate taxes, it's 18% interest compounded. If you don't pay your water and sewer, it's 18% interest compounded. That money adds up quickly. You'll be out of your home, and technically it's a default of your mortgage. So we're trying to figure all this out now at the city council, working with our colleagues in Albany on how to come up with a creative way to make sure that especially our small property owners.
Yes, yeah, I just want to interrupt, just a quick interruption. There's so many resources for tenants, and as we know, for small property owners, like I have a tenant also, and just one tenant, some people have 1 or 2, and there's no relief for landlords, and there's no representation. So I think the Bronx needs to balance that out, because it's just not all about tenants. And there are some good landlords in there, just like myself and other ones. So I think that's another thing, representation-wise, that needs to balance out in the Bronx.
Thank you, Bernadette. Point well taken.
Darrell had a question. Darrell.
Good evening, Councilman. I just wanted to ask one question. That was in regards to, I noticed there's a lot of extreme price gouging. And then 2, it may sound funny, but lack of Lysol. I can't find a can of Lysol for anything in the Bronx.
So, by the way, it's not funny. I've received so many phone calls, especially from moms with large families and have young children that can't find Lysol. I was able to help them through some of the large wholesalers that sell commercial products. So Darrell, if you contact me, and I'll put up my information for you to get it, both by email and my phone number, I will do my best to help you with locating some Lysol. And this goes for all of you as well. And the price gouging,
yeah,
you bring that to my attention. We have a division dedicated to that specifically to go after.
Like, so don't mean to cut you, but like a gas station was charging $20 for a non-name brand Lysol can. That was insane.
No. You get that in touch with me, and we'll make sure that we get the appropriate agency. The enforcement is there. It's real. And those are hefty fines that come with it. And it's per violation. So maybe Farah, while I'm talking, you can post our information up there, including the office number and our email address.
Perfect. You put it in the chat. Thank you, Councilman. Thank you.
Can I just interrupt real quick?
Yeah, go ahead, LT.
Yeah, the gentleman who saw the extreme price gouging, could you just reach out to myself or Detective Sturtevant? Because I'd like to know where that is, because if that's in the confines of the 4-9, myself and my NCOs will go over there and have a conversation with them. Definitely.
It's not just one place. There's so many places. Like, it'll take a day if I outline all the places I've seen do it, you know?
Okay, well, you know what? If you guys come across something, please let us know, because I definitely want to take a look at that, because it's not right for everybody, and we will definitely look into this. Okay?
Thank you.
Just here, where LT, I got 2 locations. I will email you at some point.
Greatly
All right.
appreciate it.
And thank you for interrupting. I just want to share a story with you about the men and women in blue, our 4-9 precinct that was so fortunate. Today I was doing a food giveaway at Pelham Housing in NYCHA off of Williamsbridge Road in Waring. And someone had made a complaint that there were people not adhering to the social distancing. I can tell you that they came out there and they stood there till the lines ceased. And God bless you. I mean, you guys are awesome. We were out there no more than an hour before you guys came up and wanted to make sure that we were complying. So thank you for that. What you're doing and putting yourselves in harm's way, we're grateful to you. I thought I would share that with you all.
Thank you.
Joe Menta.
Good evening, Councilman. Thank you for taking the time to be on here with us. Well, first and foremost, again, I just want to thank you for what you're doing. I do see you out there on the streets, and I appreciate everything that you're doing for us. I'm just let everybody on the call know I'm praying for you guys, your families, to everyone to stay safe. Just with that being said, and as you know, I don't have to, just regurgitate the issues, but we know everybody's in a different situation. And, there's some people out there that are having a very difficult time coping. And you spoke a little bit a while ago about, people's bills and things of that nature. It wasn't that long ago that, our country bailed out the banks, bailed out the auto industry. All these bailouts were going on. And, we footed the bill, right? Taxpayer footed the bill. And I know you know this and agree with this, but I just would like to get, your final point. I honestly feel that, utilities and all, everything that we have out there, even the banks, they have to give people breaks today. I mean, we're literally locked in our homes. And if we go out, we're not allowed to be out. We can't go to our jobs. We can't provide for our families. I mean, it's lockdown. It's like being in a socialist state. It's very, very scary. And if people are starting to think that, that way, people do things under, when they're under pressure. And sometimes they do things that they wouldn't do. So how can we, the longer this goes on, the more I just see, being more difficult for people financially, and then also, for the police, for crime. I said burglaries are up. So, I don't see it getting better unless this stuff gets better.
Joe, I don't think anyone has an answer that would be honest at this moment. We're all trying to, these are some challenges that we never fathomed. And this crisis, actually, you pay with your life. So there's a responsibility to everyone to make sure that we do whatever we can to stop the spread. And that was the original intent, to slow it down so we don't overwhelm the healthcare systems. We see the devastation out there. I don't think there's anybody here that doesn't know someone that has passed or know of someone that's recently passed. That's our first priority. Now it's trying to rebuild some type of normal, that new normal, whatever it may be. The sooner we get there, the better off we are. There's talk now finally of opening up slowly by industry, by area. I get a bit upset, when we say we're going to close down parks, we're going to open, we're going to close down roadways and make them walkable paths. I'm like, why just not open up a park? Enforce it. So there's quite a bit going on. The city council now is also looking at opening up some of the larger parks, understanding that social distancing and making sure that we do testing and to make certain that if we see the numbers increase on the spread, that we automatically start phasing and shutting down again. So it's going to be, it's new. There's no history. There's nothing here that we can point to that show us the paths that we, so it's going to be test and go, measure twice, cut once, very conservatively. We don't want to see this thing explode and come back again. We want to, I'm hopeful that come September, our schools are open. No one can answer that question now. We're hopeful that they will be, but could you imagine that in September, if our schools are closed, and for what period of time, and what that means to all of our families out there and the quality of education that our children are getting? I mean, we've got real issues here.
Mark, 100% right. And absolutely, health and safety are first and foremost. But the next thing, right, obviously, is our income and how we keep the economy going and how we keep our families and how we keep our kids even in school, right? So what keeps coming knocking on our door? The bills. They're not stopping. Con Ed's not stopping. I don't think it's fair. I think then give people free electricity for 3 months. Give people free water for 3 months. Like, why hit people when they're down? The city should really step in and help people during these times. And there's a couple of ways through our utilities and our necessities that they could help us.
Yeah, I shared with you that our budget is looking at a $6 billion deficit. That's a tremendous number, but by no means are we broke. It's still going to be an $80+ billion budget. It's tremendous. But cuts are going to be made, and we have to be more mindful of how we spend money. And I've been pushing this in good times that we needed reserves, and we shouldn't be spending money like we were drunken sailors. We should be accountable to the taxpayers for their money. We're stewards of taxpayer dollars, and every dollar should be spent just like you spend your money. You make sure that you can afford it, and every dollar you stretch it as far as you can. So
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you for the time. Thank you.
We have to move on.
Somebody had a question? Chris, I think somebody had a question, something?
We have to move along.
Oh, Al? Oh, yeah, I had one more question. Chris had something from somebody, I forget who. Chris?
Mark, hi, good evening, Councilman. The question is this. Basically, you answered it, but I just wanted to know, already there were allocated $49 billion for the state. How much the Bronx going to get out of that, first? And second, the city was always in surplus, and you just mentioned these 80 billion in surplus. Why should we get cuts? And I'm going to emphasize the part like Mr. Manta said. Why can't Edison, that is turning to be a conglomerate, they don't give any cuts to the people, including even DEP? I mean, you look at the price of the DEP, you look at the price of Con Ed. It's ridiculous. Meanwhile, everybody's doing for everybody something. That's what's supposed to do.
Look, I agree with you. We've been squeezing our homeowners, whether it be through real estate taxes, water and sewer, or through utilities. We've been squeezing our renters through utility charges, and we've been spending that money. And maybe this is an eye-opener, an opportunity for local and state and federal government to hit a reset button and reevaluate what we've been doing. We've been overspending. We haven't been putting that money or spending it as wisely as we should. We go back to the basics. It's going to require city, state, and federal to come together to assess the needs and make sure that we don't cut services that are important, but also make sure that we spend every dollar as if it was our own money. And that's how we should be looking at this budget. So with 80, it's going to be in the high 80s. You're looking at possibly an $86 to $89 billion budget. That's a lot of money. And that's almost $10,000 for every man, woman, and child that lives in New York City. Big budget, but yet it never seems to be enough. So Jeremy, I think
So Mark, unless there's anything else, we should move on.
I'm here praying for everyone and fighting for you. So please don't hesitate to reach out to me on any issue that you may have. I see that Farrah listed my office number and my email address for you, as well as her own. We've got a lot of work to do. I see my colleague is on as well, Natalia Fernandez, the Assemblywoman. We're going to be working together to make sure that we do the most we can, and this is our priority. So whether it be protecting you or being a voice for you, it will also include bringing home the bacon, and I'm relying on Natalia to work with me to make sure that this district gets all of the funding that it deserves. God bless you and thank you so much. Stay healthy and safe, and please don't leave the house without protective personal equipment. It's for your benefit and for those that you interact with. You have to leave, just be mindful. You can risk, but endanger yourself, but don't endanger others.
Thank you. The 49 precinct is leaving. Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Lieutenant. And then is Senator Rivera still here? Is he?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. I just turned off my my mic and camera, but I'm turning it on now. There you go. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
All right, so I'm just going to run through a couple of things. I'll be open to any questions you might want to ask. Well, just like the council member said, you are all in my thoughts. I'm looking forward to the moment when we will be able to be in the same room with each other. Please stay safe and please stay healthy. And my condolences for anyone that for anyone that has lost someone. If folks are sick at home, I hope they get better very soon. So a couple of quick things on the state budget. There was a budget that we voted on a couple of weeks ago. It seems like it was 27 years ago, but it was only a couple of weeks ago. It was a budget that I was very disappointed in. It was the toughest budget that we've had so far. And there was a budget that I voted no on in a couple of bills. In particular, around the notion that in this moment when we are all being asked to sacrifice, and you have all talked about it in the last 15, 20 minutes, when we are all being asked to sacrifice, there are some folks who are not being asked to sacrifice. And I find that not only distasteful and unfair and unjust, but just not rational at this moment. And the budget that the governor insisted we pass did not have a single added tax for billionaires or millionaires. And last I checked, they're not the ones that are getting laid off. They're not the ones that are losing their small businesses. They're not the ones that are losing their homes. And they were let go without anything. So no new taxes on billionaires or millionaires. But the governor did cut Medicaid during that budget. And I could not in good conscience vote for that. And so I voted no on it. We can have a longer conversation about it if you'd like, but it was something that I couldn't vote for. On issues of just generally speaking on COVID-19, we, as the council member said, our office is thing. We are still open. I know Caitlin is on the call, and Caitlin is not only on the call right now, but she is on call, as is the rest of my staff. We still work every day on issues of providing access to food, if there are issues with landlords, if there are issues with unemployment. We try to be as helpful as we can. So please get in contact with us. I know that we had a long conversation about small businesses and unemployment. On unemployment, I'd like to say that there is a webinar that we are doing on May 5th. On May 5th from 5 to 6:30. There'll be a webinar that you can watch on Facebook Live, or you can be part of it on Zoom. You can get all the information from Caitlin, but this is going to be so that we're going to have different folks talk about some of the issues that are facing people that are unemployed right now and some of the solutions that are being proposed, as well as some assistance. And hopefully the state will get its act together. We have all heard about the fact that there just was no way that they could handle as much new influx as they had got of people that are unemployed. So we are working with the state to kind of get them to do it more quickly, but we're going to have that on May 5th, which weirdly enough is next week. Just this time, I'm not sure how for the rest of you it flows, but for me, time just flows weirdly. I'll remind everyone as well that since you are stuck at home, make sure that you fill out your census if you have not yet. That is incredibly important. It is how we get federal funding. It is how we make sure that everyone gets counted. So please fill out your census. You can do it online. It took me 10 minutes a few weeks ago. You can do the same thing. You should know that on issues around the state, some of the work that I've been doing has been to work on what some of the state guidance that has been issued related to healthcare facilities. There's one in particular that we just got a win on just a couple of days ago, and that is there was a whole issue about reimbursements on mental health services to community health centers and reimbursements that they were not getting from the state. The state did not change some guidance until very recently. It required patients to actually come into the community health center to get telehealth services for mental health services. And it was kind of like, you're putting people at risk. We want to make sure that we provide the service. So we had to get that fixed, and we got it fixed. We are also working to expand testing capability. We talked about that as well in this call. There is for the moment, most of these sites are drive-in only, and we want to make sure that we can provide some for folks who do not have access to a car. And so we're working to expand testing capacity. But it is true that without the federal government's capabilities, we're kind of in a bind. If they do not use their power to expand testing capacity in a very big way, we're not only going to be, kind of in the dark about who actually has it and who does not. But I got to be honest with you, and this is from talking to many people that know far more about this than I do. If we do not have broad-based testing, any reopening that we do, whatever we call it, is not really going to prove possible. If we can't do contact tracing, which means testing individuals, testing very widely, not just people who have symptoms, not just people who are potentially hospitalized, but everyone, hopefully, and then figure out who they have been in contact with, which is what places like Taiwan and South Korea did. If we don't do that, reopening is not going to prove possible, because what's going to happen is that likely there will be a period of a lull, and then we'll have another spike in cases. So we got to make sure that we do it right. And so on reopening, on testing, we want to expand testing capacity. And in places like the Bronx, we definitely need to make sure that we do that before we come back.
Senator, can we ask questions now?
I guess I'm done. I guess you can ask questions now.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I just, Mr. Jonah, likes to talk, and I want to make sure we can get some.
I only have one more point, but go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead. Sorry for interrupting.
No. Actually, go ahead, man. Go ahead. I was just gonna...
Any updates on bail reform? This is a question from a board member.
Yeah. Well, there was some bail reform that was passed. There was some bail reform that was passed in the budget. It is one of the things that, and we had this conversation in person before. I know that there's many members there's many folks in the community board that disagree with me on this, and I will respectfully continue the stance that I had when I spoke in front of you. I believe that bail was a way to criminalize poverty, and that we needed to change it, because if you were wealthy, you could, regardless of what you were arrested for, you could go out. So there were obviously a lot of folks who disagreed with that, and there was some reform to the reform that was proposed and was pushed forward in the budget. What I can tell you is that that was approved. I did not vote for it, but it was approved in the budget. So there have been some changes that have occurred, although it is not, the concern that I have right now is that if there's a place that actually has the highest rates of infection actually are happening in jails and prisons across the state and across the country, but certainly in the state. And particularly for places that are people who are in pretrial detention, which means people who have been arrested but have not been convicted of anything, which are the folks that are the overwhelming majority of people that are at Rikers, for example. They're sitting in petri dishes. They're more likely to be infected. And I have a problem with that. So I can tell you, as far as just as a quick response, that there were some reforms to the reform that were done in the budget, and they are in effect, but they're, but they're not. But I'm not necessarily. I was not necessarily in agreement with them when they passed. I'm not necessarily in agreement with them now.
And then we had a question from Adie Scraley. She wants me to read it out. So existing tests are not accurate. I'm assuming that antibody tests will be inaccurate as well. Therefore, how safe can we really feel when the tests do become widely available?
Well, there's always new tests that are being developed, and the fact is that there are a lot of tests that have been developed in other parts of the world that we could actually borrow from. They need to be inexpensive, and they need to actually produce quick results. And there's a lot of places where that has been achieved already. As I spoke about South Korea and Taiwan in particular, I think those are the best examples. South Korea, for example, is a country of about 50 million people. They had on the same date as the first case in the US. The first case in the US was reported on exactly the same day as the first case in South Korea. South Korea has less than 300 deaths, less than 300. And we are, I haven't seen the numbers today, but I know that we were just in New York. We were like maybe at 20,000 already. It's something ridiculous. So the tests there are tests that have been developed in other parts of the world that we should be able to borrow. I'm just looking at New York right now. And New York had almost 24,000 deaths, almost 24,000. So there are places, there are tests that we can borrow, and you are correct. We need to have accurate tests and tests that produce results quickly. But we also need to think broader than that, because this is what happened, for example, in South Korea and Taiwan. And I'll be quick about this. They established, when they realized how serious it was going to be, they got private companies to develop tests rapidly. This happened back in February. Then they established fever clinics, which was places that you can go in, and if you had a fever, you were tested immediately. You had a fever, you were tested immediately. If you were found to be positive, you were told, tell your family to bring some clothes because you're going to spend the next 2 weeks here away from your family. Now, they all did that all the way back in February. And right now, they're slowly but surely, they've been reopening, and they haven't seen any explosions in cases. That's the type of aggressive action that we have to take. We can't mess around with this stuff. So yes, if we have the right type of test, but they are already available in other places in the world, we should borrow some from them and mass produce them here in the States.
Okay, so just a reminder that if the principal elected is in the meeting, like the senator here, Councilmember Jonai, and I believe there's Assemblymember Fernandez is here, we're not going to hear from the reps. We do not have time to hear from the reps, unfortunately. So Jarrell had a question for Senator Rivera, I believe.
Yeah, it was just in regards to the state probably at some point maybe looking into mandating tests for major corporations. I know it's very sensitive, but I don't know, it's something I think we should look into. If someone's tested positive and they're trying to come back to work, maybe it should be mandated to take a test before you go back.
Well, part of that is, but we need to be smart about that, because we're actually talking about that today in my staff, because we're looking at paid sick leave and the ways that we can actually change it, to address that type of situation. Because if you are positive, if you're positive but you're asymptomatic, you feel good enough to go to work, and you think you have to go back to work, because if not, you're not going to be able to provide for your family, then what kind of situation does that put you in? So expanding paid sick leave to certain situations in which you might be asymptomatic, and feel that you can work, but are still able to be, to get it to other people. We want to make sure that we, like I said, when you take someone and you quarantine them, even away from their family, for 14 days, you're able to keep it from spreading in family units. By the way, was the way that it spread the quickest in China, actually spread quickly not through big social events like concerts or anything like that, but in family units. The
question I'm saying is because for major corporations, I work for a major corporation, and I feel sometimes they don't want to even make this type of decision for whatever reason. It could be profit, it could be whatever. But in a situation like that, it's best that your employees are healthy before they even come back to work. I've seen so many situations where, people, are asymptomatic or whatever have you, and they come back to work too soon, past the 14 days. First and foremost, some people don't get over it in 2 weeks. Some people get over it up to 8 to 10 weeks in most cases. So, from what I've
Not sure if the 8 to 10 is accurate, but your point still stands. We want to make sure that if people that they can give it to somebody else, we want to make sure that they're kept in a place where they don't give it to other folks. And I know that Dr. Salcedo is there. So,
Yes.
so eight to 10 weeks, I do not believe that that's accurate. Is that correct, Doctor?
If you are really sick in the ICU, that can be the case, but in general, we're trying to look at the data. It looks 2 weeks. What's really going to be great is when we do have a great antibody test, and we'll be able to see by there's 2 antibodies, IgG, IgM. IgM means that you no longer have an active infection. IgG means you have antibodies. That means hopefully you're protective. So once we start getting these tests that Senator Rivera is talking about, we will be able to make these decisions and it will help, but we don't have that yet. So this is all really hard for us. We're all working through this, but hopefully we'll figure out all this testing and antibody testing soon.
Brian, you had a question for the senator? Another one? Or I'm sorry, one?
Yes, hi. Good evening, Senator Rivera. The question is with regards to seniors, is there any remote tablets with internet for some of the seniors that might need it? Is that being considered at all? Because a lot of them are disconnected. Some don't have internet. The libraries aren't open. So I was just wondering if that's being considered at all for the seniors.
To be honest, not something that I had necessarily considered. You're saying for the purposes of connecting them to just for those folks who don't have the ability to connect to the outside world so they can connect?
Yeah, for resource, I mean, there's so much information out there right now with resources, and some of them might need it. I was just wondering if that was some of them don't have smartphones, so those are the ones that really might need it. They might not have cable at home or whatever. I was just wondering if might be some sort of resource for that.
Not that I know of. I think that, but you know what? I do know that the senior centers in my district have tried to really keep in contact with the folks who they serve on a regular basis to make sure that they can provide food if necessary, that they can provide some other services. So I'll actually check in with them because I gotta be honest with you, I hadn't thought about it. I had thought about, for example, the tablets that we're getting to children in schools, right? To make sure that, particularly for those folks who do not have computers at home, so there's a way for them to do long distance learning. But I had not necessarily considered it for seniors. That's a good idea. I'll actually touch base with the senior centers to see how they've gone about doing this. And sometimes there's ways that we can get maybe private companies to donate certain things so that they can get to seniors. I hadn't thought about that. I will look into it.
I will also check in with the senior center that we have here in Van Ness and basically see how they're doing and sort of get some sort of recap and some feedback for them also.
Thanks a lot, Bernadette.
Thank you.
Melanie, you had a question?
Yes, hi, this is for the senator.
Yes.
Hi, how are you? So I just have 2 points, and I know we still have Dr. Salcedo with us on the line. The first thing I wanted to just bring up, because we were talking about antibody testing, is that I work for 2 of the major healthcare corporations here in New York. So we started to do antibody testing in a couple of sites across the city. I don't know how familiar you are with that. And that's being run by the New York State Department of Health, the lab, Wadsworth Center.
Yeah.
So I took the test myself yesterday, and you have to be basically an employee of H+H, which I am, and you have to be invited also to take the test because it's part of research.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not, I know a lot of people are concerned that they want this test to be available, and I just want to put it out there that we're working on it. A lot of research is being conducted. And just like you mentioned before, we are actively taking information, of course, from other countries overseas. But because we don't know the immunity of the people that may have already contracted COVID, and if you can get reinfected or not. This is something that we are just still conducting as part of research before we have it open and available to the public. And then the second thing I wanted to also ask you if you knew a little bit more about this like FMLA that's happening. So there are people and who are essential workers who may have contracted COVID, have tested positive, are allowed to go home, but are being asked to return to work, even if they are asymptomatic and may still have COVID, because they are needed, because they are essential. Now, these are doctors, nurses, police officers, and we're at a time where we are getting help from the Army. You know, I go to the hospital every single day. I work long shifts, long hours, and where we have nurses that will come in and they'll run out and they'll say, I am in the emergency room. This is not an emergency room. This is a war zone. I'm leaving. So we have this high turnaround time because we may have people who are essential healthcare workers who are working with COVID to treat the patients. And we need to be able to allow people to be home if they have COVID, not continue to spread it while trying to save lives of other people that also have COVID. It's just like a revolving door of COVID that I find very concerning because I'm in the heat of it all every day.
Right. What I agree with you. What is the question?
So do you have any information or any updates as to giving people a longer leave to be able to be home if you actually have COVID, instead of asking people, well, you may have COVID, but you don't have symptoms, come to work, we need you. Not just people that need to, of course, make money and take care of their families, but also people that are essential. They're frontline workers still being asked to come in.
Well,
Can I add something? I have a friend of mine who's actually a nurse, and she had COVID, and I actually came into close contact with her. But anyway, the hospital where she works at, I'm not naming names, basically had her go back to the hospital within a week of her testing positive. And she tested positive a day after she started showing symptoms. So I totally agree. I think, I think that there's a shortage of healthcare workers, and you guys are overworked. But I think that, it's kind of spreading it too. I'm sure she probably was still spreading it to others.
So I would tell you that what I would like to do is that, Caitlin, who's on the call, like, get us some of the information on some, because it's likely, I know that this was happening. I'm unsure if it is still happening, and if it is still happening, I would like to actually have a conversation offline about it with you, because one of the things that I'm trying to do, and this is something that I offer to everyone, particularly those folks who are familiar, who are working in the healthcare field or nursing homes, home health aides, etc. One of the things that I have been focused on in my capacity as the chair of the health committee, working along with my colleague in the assembly who's chair of the health committee, when there's particular guidance, when there's certain guidance that happens from the state that is not being followed or needs to be changed, to more accurately, help the situation along. We want to understand what it is that's currently happening. Who are the folks that are following the rules? Who is not following the rules? Who is following the rules, but the rules are wrong and need to be changed? Those are the things that, if you have something like that, so we should please be in contact through Caitlin with my office, so that you can tell us exactly about the situation, give us as much detail as possible, because I have a constant conversation with the Department of Health, both in the city of New York as well as the state. And when there are certain things that we can change regarding guidance, so that we can make sure that we can fix things that maybe decisions were made under duress in certain moments where they were over capacity, I want to make sure to fix it, because you are correct. I don't disagree with anything that you said. And if we can try to fix it, we will.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you, ma'am.
So Hazel had a question. I'm going to unmute her. Go ahead, Hazel.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
My question is, You know that there's a lot of people that are out of work right now, and we do have a moratorium on eviction cases. But my clients are really, really concerned because they don't know what's going to happen once the moratorium is lifted and everything kind of gets back to flowing.
Yeah.
Where are they supposed to go to get assistance for arrears? Now, we have been telling them to pay their rent or pay whatever portion of the rent they can because, you know, it's very difficult for them, you know, with food and other bills. But is there something in place for them to, or assistance for them to go to catch up to these arrears?
This is a serious concern, and one that I know that I deal with. I have about 67,000 units of rent stabilized apartments in my district, and most of them are poor working class folks that could barely make ends meet before the crisis. So this is one of the reasons why I believe that we need to go back to legislating as soon as possible, because we need to be thoughtful. I heard about some of the conversations that happened before related to small landlords like Bernadette, right? Small landlords that might be in their home or might just own like one building or two. We need to be thoughtful about how we balance this out, but I believe that we need to cancel rent. And I believe that we need to be smart about how we do it so we do not put undue pressure on landlords that are good landlords either. But the reality is that if you have somebody today who can't pay their rent because they haven't been working for the last month, or at this point 2 months, and we did put a 90-day moratorium in place, but there's actually one of my colleagues in Manhattan who got a call from a landlord in his district, and the landlord asked his office, this is a real call, and he said like, hey, I just want to make sure, what are the things that we should be setting up for so that as soon as the 90 days are over, I can completely evict somebody because they haven't paid the rent for 3 months. Like, these are conversations that bad landlords are having already. So I want to make sure that we get back to legislating so that we can have a thoughtful conversation with the governor and with the assembly about how to do something about canceling rent and doing it in a way that helps tenants who currently do not have the ability, and nor will they have the ability in 3 months to pay for their 3 months. Because if they can't pay today, they're not going to be able to pay 3 months in a month and a half, because that's ultimately the 90 days is going to be up in about 45 days. So you are correct. It is something that is deeply concerning to me, because I have so many tenants in my district, and there's so many tenants across the entire state that are worried about it. So I am on it. I'm working along with my colleagues, and hopefully we'll be able to go back to Albany soon, even if virtually, so that we can pass legislation to address it.
That's really great. I'm so happy that you guys are on top of it. But you also have to do something that's not going to hurt the smaller landlords, because landlords are still paying property taxes, and they're still paying for water and electricity and other things. So if you completely cut off the rent, you're cutting off their money supply.
I agree, which is why, as I said earlier, and Councilmember Joe and I hit the mark on this. We have to do this in a way so that I cannot ask a landlord who has the burden of paying for these taxes that you mentioned. I can't say to them, now you're going to have to pay it even though you're going to get no income or no revenue from your tenants. Like, we have to be balanced out. So, but because they're not getting revenue because the tenants have no revenue, I can't ask them, particularly small business owners, because landlords are small business owners, right? I can't ask a small business owner, pay for this, even though I know you got no revenue. I don't care. Like, we have to be thoughtful about it. So I agree with you. But if we don't act aggressively, the impact that's going to have on the entire endeavor. I mean, we're having issues with homelessness right now. Imagine in 6 months if we do not proactively deal with the fact that people are not going to be able to pay their rent because they haven't had income for 2 months. How are we going to be? What kind of impact is that going to have on the homelessness crisis 6 months from now? We can't ignore that.
Right, correct. Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate your answer and everything that you're doing for us. Thank you.
Thank you, man.
So, Senator, any final points? I know I interrupted you before you had a final one.
Just this is the final one.
Just so you know, there are no more questions. My chairman said no more questions.
Gotcha. So I'm going to speak for the next 20 minutes. No. I'm messing with you. Messing with you. Okay. So this is the very quick point that I'll make at the end. I'm not originally from New York. Most of you folks know I'm originally from Puerto Rico. I was born and raised down there. I came to New York in '98, moved up to the Bronx in 2000. But the reason I fell in love with the Bronx is because of the resiliency of the people here, particularly folks that have lived here for their entire lives. Where's his brother? But as you were saying, as being said earlier, there's something I fell in love with in this borough, and that's the resiliency of the folks here. So this is a very, very tough moment, but I believe we can get through it together. And I would argue that what we have to pay attention to is that we cannot possibly go back to normal, quote unquote normal, what we had before. There's so many ways in which it has been demonstrated. There's so many parts of the way the system worked, which is just unjust and unfair. We have to address those issues. We have to, and we can't ignore them. We can't go back to the old normal. We have to have a new normal. And I would argue one of the things that we need to do is pass the New York Health Act, which is to create a single payer system in the state of New York to guarantee universal access to care to every single person who's a New Yorker. We could have a longer conversation about that, but the last point I wanted to make was that we'll get through this together because we're resilient bastards. The Bronx is a resilient group of folk. But let's make sure that as we get through it, we at the other end do not go back to the way things were, because then this is going to happen again, and we can't allow that. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for allowing me to be with you. I'll remain for a little bit longer, but I know Caitlin is going to be here for the rest of the way.
Thank you, Senator. Assemblymember Fernandez, are you still there?
Sorry it took so long.
That's okay. I enjoy watching you and listening, so it's okay. Good evening, everyone. I hope we're doing well. I missed you all. It feels like 3 months since the last virtual call that we had. So time is moving slow, but really fast. It's weird. But me and my office, we are still functioning. We're still, here, around, available, able to be contacted. The office phone line is connected to staff, so I encourage anyone, please share it. Any concern, ask, request, whatever that we're getting, we're really trying to address it immediately and right away. And I could say it's been busier. Like the phones and emails and everything are buzzing. But that makes me happy because at least the community knows that, help can be sought here. And mainly we're seeing issues of food insecurity and unemployment. That's really the top two. So I have been trying to get as many resources I have been to the area. I did partner up with Alex Neely and Albanian American Open Hands Association to get food when we get it from a donor in Hunts Point. So efforts, but obviously still more is needed. I am getting a shipment of hand sanitizers, so about 100-gallon bottles that I'm going to try to map out to give out to right now essential businesses, whatever is open, senior centers, to make sure that they have at least some sanitation in their entrance. But also I want to be able to share it with community associations. So if you know or can utilize a bottle of sanitizer, please let me know. Hopefully I'll get that in the next week or two. Much like to what the senator said, we are trying to fight on the state to try to save us. We signed a letter, the assembly, with Carl to our congressional and federal representatives, urging that they push for monetary assistance, federal assistance, because we really do need that. I do agree with the governor that there should have been a revenue tax on our ultra wealthy, at least for this time and maybe like the next year or two or something. But I really think all efforts need to be made, including that tax and what we can get from our federal representatives. I applaud Councilman Jonah on his push for trying to save our small businesses. That really is a big problem right now, and in a lot of them not being able to apply or be eligible for the grants that have come out with the stimulus packages. So, it's just something we should all be vigilant. What's the word I'm looking for? Pay attention to it, because we all can help our small businesses. If you can support, please order online or delivery or something. And I guess last update, 2500 Williamsbridge Road, still in communication there is a part of, I guess, investigation as well. So AG investigators did do a contact with the buyers and seller, and did get a narrative of how that transaction went down. I'm preparing a statement with them so we can properly share what it was. But at the moment, they say that they found no fraudulent action. There is a factor that Councilman Joe and I brought up when we had a conversation about a transfer tax. So now I'm in communication with the State Department of Finance to see if they can find any trace of that. And then, we'll have a final say, but right now it is still pending. But good news, in my communication with the Attorney General's office, I requested to do a teletown hall with her. So we're going to get that in the works, and hopefully, with enough participants, we can get many of our concerns addressed, but with her and by her, regarding price gouging as well, and anything else that the Attorney General can be helpful on. So once that information is secured and made available, I will absolutely share it, and I hope everyone can tune in. I plan also a few town halls coming up, one with the Department of Education, and really just trying to get the dates down, because as much as I'm invited on these little Zooms, trying to set up my own, sometimes it could be time consuming. But thankful to say that, me and the staff are doing well. We're happy to hear from everyone, so please keep in touch, let us know. Oh, and regarding the canceling rent, to Hazel's question and point, I did introduce a bill to address that specific problem about hurting the small landlords that rely on the rent to pay these utility bills. So I have a bill that's introduced, and the language is being worked out a little bit, and I hope that we can, consider it if and when we start session again, remotely or not. But that bill would also call for a freeze on utilities like water and sewer and gas and all that, in addition to those that can't pay rent. So just trying to tweak out some language to make sure it's, directly helpful to those that need the assistance and not just, everybody. But I'm hopeful that, we can get back there and at least have a discussion for what really needs to be done. Because yes, rent is due tomorrow. And for those that can pay it, please help out your landlord. But if you can't, understandable. And if, you need help advocating for that, I'd be happy to do so as to why you need to be protected from your landlord if they are like the ones that the senator mentioned that are trying to evict this time. So it's really all I got. But again, I'm here for you, and any questions I'm happy to take.
All right, anyway, any board members have questions? I haven't seen any chats, any text messages lately. So unless there's something, we should move on. Thank you, Assembly Member.
No problem, guys. Stay safe, be well.
I will get back to Mr. Lucchini because he called in. Let me go to the agenda real quick. Mr. Bob Press, are you here? I got to figure out which one Mr. is. Okay, I got to figure out which one is Tom Lucchini before I can call on him. Go ahead, Bob.
Okay. Councilman John, I'm going to be trying to be very brief because Councilman John and I said much of what I was going to say about the executive budget. So let me just go in that Councilman King has been out in his district doing what he has to bring food to where it is needed. On Monday, Councilman King and Brooklyn Borough President Eric Adams gave out 1,500 face masks in Co-op City. On Tuesday at the Workman's Circle Multi-Care Center, Councilman King, Senator Bailey, and Miss Layla Capers, the star of The Lion King, held a celebration for our essential workers, the police, fire, sanitation, healthcare, and postal workers. Lastly, I want to thank my Assemblywoman for the update on 2500 Williamsbridge Road, and I hope that the board stays on top of 1400 Blondell Avenue if there are any updates on that, Jeremy. That's it. If anybody wants to contact me, please go through Jeremy.
Yeah, so the update that I received from the city, I think today, was that they're still on track for opening up the homeless shelter. I didn't get a chance to share that with the board yet. Let's see who else is on the agenda. Any questions for Mr. Press? No. Marielle De La Cruz. I still got to figure out which one is Tom Lucania. So just bear with me. Marielle, are you still there? You still around?
I am. Can you all hear me?
Yeah.
Awesome. Like Jeremy said, this is Marielle De La Cruz and I'm having a hard time with my damn computer, with the New York City Comptroller's Office. I just wanted to share a few quick things. One, we've been working from home, like I mentioned in the previous meeting. We had a town hall along with Senator Biaggi that had over, I think it was 400 people in attendance. So thank you so much for folks that made it out there. There are also a few of you all that I will be contacting that submitted questions. I just haven't gotten to some things as of yet. I'm really interested in hearing about folks' concerns about not concerns, requests about the expansion of PS 108. I know I had been in communications with folks in CEC 11 a long time ago about another school, but I just want to make sure that people continue to communicate with me on those things. One of the things that we have done, just an FYI for the small business owners and Community Board 11, is that we've been having webinars about different resources that exist, private and public, for small businesses, both loans and grants. So if folks need that information, Jeremy, I will put that in the chat, and I know that you have shared it with different individuals. Also, too, people have been sending me cases of folks that have issues receiving food or any kind of issues like that. We also have a constituent services arm, and we're doing as best as we can to connect people. We have a resource guide from all over the city that New Yorkers can use during COVID. So again, I will include that link, Jeremy, with you, and I know you shared that as well, the small business link. And also, I would like to say thank you, Jeremy. Anytime I've called him, he has responded very quickly with a lot of information. And a lot of the different elected officials that were on or may still be on, their staff has been incredibly helpful to me, and I know to their constituents. A lot of folks have been working 24/7, and because you can't see them, that's not necessarily always assumed. So thank you so much. Lastly, what I wanted to say is that the comptroller has released a lot of statements and letters regarding the way could move a little differently. So we've asked for there to be a better look at senior housing and how it's been disinfected or not at all, especially the 202. Also, too, ACS for protections for childcare, letters about nonprofits, and I know nonprofits have called us with concerns about their contracts. So we are putting those out there as quickly as possible. And there's also so much work that we have been doing about releasing demographic data as well to ensure that we identify and continue to identify systematic inequalities, better protect frontline workers. So there's so much else that we've done, and I'm not taking too much more of your time. But thank you so much for having me here today. Thank you for all of your work. I will also include my cell phone number that everybody should have. But the more that I know about what's going on in your community, the better I am able to assist you. So these meetings should not be the first time I hear of things. And I am home and would love to speak to some of you all. So thank you so much. Have a beautiful night.
Yes. Hi, Marielle. This is Bernadette. I just wanted to give a quick update. I just want to give a quick update. I had a one-on-one meeting with Cheryl Smith this week about some of the issues, and of course PS 108 came up, and she's assured me that they are, that the superintendent, along with everyone else, and I'm sure they will all get the information out to the respective elected officials, but that there will be an information update. There's a lot of information that needs to get flushed through and become transparent, and she rattled all of them off because she knows them like the back of her hand. And probably the end of May or the beginning of June, there will be an information update. So I just wanted to put it out there because I know there are a lot of people within the community and parents, etc., that are looking forward to that update.
Thank you. Please share with me any meetings that you guys think I should be a part of. I try to know a lot of things, but I don't know everything because I cover a lot of the Bronx. So feel free to include me in anything or send that to me, okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thomas Lucania, Borough President's Office.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, thank you all for participating this evening on this call. I also want to share the Borough President's thoughts and prayers for those board members who are presently suffering from the coronavirus and any family members who have been affected by it. I have sent out the latest Borough President newsletter to all of you. I've sent it to the board and asked them to share it with the community as well. Borough President has been out in the community, similar to what everybody else has been doing in terms of food, masks, sanitizer. Today, the Borough President received a donation from the automobile dealers in the Bronx of 50,000 masks, which will be distributed throughout the borough to essential employees, nursing homes, senior buildings, night care developments. As all of the other offices, our office is open, working from home. Our constituent services office is taking complaints and working with city agencies on any complaints that come up. You all have my email address. Please feel free to contact me if you have any questions or need any assistance. Thank you, Jeremy.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Let's see. I forget who's here. Christina Calderon from the Bronx District Attorney's Office. Can you unmute yourself?
Can everyone hear me?
Yep.
Hello, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well. Condolences to those of you who have lost a loved one, a family member, or a friend. The DA's office, we're working remotely at the time, the entire office. So while we are closed physically, everyone is working remotely. So all court appearances and trials have been held virtually. In conjunction with PD, we are handling the more violent cases that fall under felony charges, and any instances that have a victim, any crimes that may have a victim attached to it. Because as Senator Gustavo mentioned, that there is a high increase in those who are incarcerated becoming contaminated with the virus, infected with the virus. The DA's offices have sent letters to the mayor just addressing that issue. Also, on another note, yesterday was Denim Day. So those of you who wore denim in lieu of like sexual assault, thank you for that. And it's just to heighten awareness. I've also sent some documents to Jeremy, which can be shared with the board members and the constituents of Community Board 11. We have a DV resource guide. Our crime victim assistance unit is still up and running. And so if you look on the guide, you can get information on how people can seek resources, be it therapy or whatever they may need. Also, we're asking that people just keep your ears and eyes open for any incidents of child abuse that may be going on because of the lower contact with mandated reporters. We're not sure what is being done or if it's happening, if there has been an increase, a decrease. So just be vigilant about child abuse. And that's pretty much it from the DA's office. If you have any questions, I posted my number, I posted my email in the chat. Please just send all questions that you may have to that email address so that I can get you your response in a timely manner. Thank you.
Okay. Somebody had a question? Excuse me? No? Okay, so let's move on to the AOC's office. Destiny Cruz.
Hi, folks. Oh, am I unmuted? Yes, I am. Okay. Hi, folks. Good evening. As mentioned, my name is Destiny Cruz. I'm a representative and caseworker for Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez. I'm happy to join all you folks. And again, just want to thank CB11's leadership for setting up a virtual meeting. Just a few quick updates. As folks know, we did pass the CARES Act, which provides immediate cash relief. So adults will receive, most adults will receive up to $1,200 in a direct deposit from the IRS if you have an adjusted gross income of $75,000 or less, and ensuring that you also filed in 2018 or 2019. Let's see, if you have a child who is under the age of 16, you are also eligible to receive an additional $500 per child. You can check the status of your stimulus check. I'm going to send those links in the chat in a moment, but there is a link where you can check the status of your check. You can update to ensure that your direct deposit is updated with the IRS so that way you can receive that. That being said, and this is at the state level, but the CARES Act also ensures that an additional $600 per week for up to 4 months are given to folks who have applied for unemployment and that their unemployment was due to COVID-19. I will also share a link where you can apply for unemployment. I also want to thank Councilmember Jonai for mentioning the disadvantages that our small businesses are facing at this time with the legislation that has been coming from the federal government. That being said, and it's very much the reason why the Congresswoman has recently voted no. In fact, she was the only Congress member to vote no on the most recent legislation because it did not have enough money to go to our small businesses. So I just wanted to share that with you all. Additionally, if you are on Social Security or you receive Social Security income or supplemental security income, you will not have to file a tax return in order to receive your tax assistance. Recipients will receive cash assistance as a direct deposit or by paper check, just as they normally would receive their benefits. That being said, this week, the IRS began issuing paper checks to individuals. This can take up to 20 weeks to ensure that everyone gets it, but they did begin that this week. Now on a more local level, a lot of folks, in the beginning of the call, we were talking about USPS, but just over the last few weeks, I know that particularly CB11 has had a lot of issues with their postal services. So I just want to give a quick update on that, particularly at the Allerton and Esplanade post offices. It is our understanding that the Allerton and Esplanade post offices are retail only locations, and services such as PO boxes in Allerton are available at the parent station of Williamsbridge. So we will see some temporary closures from those two post offices, and that is due to the Bronx Postmaster not having enough staff to open these buildings. Resources and staff are shifted daily, and our office has voiced the community's concerns and hopes that the Allerton and Esplanade post offices will be permanently open soon. I just want to thank Assemblymember Fernandez's staff who did flag that those two post offices to our office. Let's see. Sorry, I didn't mean to take too much time, Jeremy, but also for just CB11, I heard back today from our congressional liaison in terms of holding your mail. That is official. They will be holding it. Just please let me know at the end of this meeting how long you want it to be held. I will let them know, and they will contact the Bronx Postmaster on your behalf to ensure that all of the CB11 mail is being held. That being said, just very quickly, we do have a newsletter with COVID-19 updates, and we also just want to continue to remind people that the census is still happening. I'm going to drop the link where you can self-report and add yourself to the census. I'm also going to leave my phone number. Just like everyone else, our office is still working. You can call our office, leave a voicemail, and someone will get back to you before the end of the day. That being said, those are all of my updates unless there are any questions.
Great, thank you, Destiny. Sandy Unger had a question.
I had a question or a point of information. I know it's, and I want to thank everything that has been said and done, but there have been days that people in the 10469 area code or zip code have not gotten their mail. For 2 days at a time, then you'll get one piece of mail, then another 2 days. This is unacceptable. And I mean, yes, I know that there's a shortage of staff, but just today, no mail in this area. And what is being done to address that?
Right. And so it's in moments like these where we hear from the community that we can reach out to our congressional liaison and find out exactly about that zip code. Do you know which post office serves that zip code exactly? Is it?
If I'm not mistaken, the mail comes from Gun Hill Road. That is the post office that the mail is delivered from.
Gotcha. Okay. So again, I'm happy to so I'm gonna put down my phone number so you can call me directly and message me directly so I can ask.
Jeremy will have to give it to me because I'm on the phone,
Oh,
not on
okay.
the computer.
No, yeah, no problems then. So Jeremy, you can share my contact information. We can just.
I will be keeping a calendar of the days that there have been no deliveries. And it's not one day a week, it's several.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah.
I don't know if anyone else is in the 10469 zip code or gets mail from Gun Hill Road. Does anyone else have a problem with the mail delivery? I guess, I don't know. Okay, thank you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I
Go ahead,
can.
Debbie.
Yes, I'm also having problem with the mail, and I know my mail comes from Parkchester. I'm in 10462, and I have gotten mail of things that I had already paid like a good month ago, and then I'm just getting the stuff in the mail, the statement in the mail a month
Look, I didn't
later.
get my tax stuff for weeks after I was told that things were mailed. Weeks, I couldn't do my taxes.
Yeah,
I understand.
Yeah, I'm getting stuff. I'm getting stuff 6 weeks later than it should have been.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank God they didn't throw it away.
Right, and that is absolutely unacceptable. And I just also want to give the context that we fully recognize that this is a Bronx-based issue. And as part of our district, we're not seeing this come up. And so we're working very closely with our congressional liaison and the Bronx postmaster to ensure that everyone's getting their mail and that we're flagging everything that you folks are seeing on the ground. So again, I really do appreciate it. And we'll have Jeremy, if you can please just share my contact information with everyone to ensure that they can contact me directly.
Pat, Charles has a question. Let me unmute her because she called in from what I can tell. Pat? There? Pat? Charles? Well, maybe come back to her. I can tell you though.
No. I'm sorry. I had to unmute myself. Okay, thank you. I'm having a problem with some of my neighbors who are on SSI, and they haven't gotten a check because they're having problems with getting their information from their W-2 forms from 2018 and 2019 because they're underneath Adult Protective Services, and they're not getting those. They're not getting their information or their paperwork so that they can file. So they're having a problem with that issue with the prior SS.
So I just want to clarify, if they are receiving SSI benefits, they do not have to file a tax return. So that is an update that the IRS has created. They're saying that anyone who has their benefits, their SSI benefits, they will receive that the same way that they receive their SSI benefits. So for example, if it's on the second Wednesday of the month by check or through direct deposit, that is the time and the way that they will receive that. You do not have to file additional forms.
Okay, well, if they don't have direct deposit because they don't have direct deposit with the Adult Protective Services, they get some. I don't know what kind of problem that he's having, but I'll have to get your information later from Jeremy, and then I'll be able to get through to him, and then we can at least assist him with that matter, moving forward.
Yes, please. Definitely. Please feel free to contact me directly, and I'm happy to communicate with your neighbors. But again, for everyone's awareness, if you are receiving a benefit, especially Social Security, VA benefits as well, it's railroad retirement benefits, those three benefits, you will automatically receive the $1,200. You do not have to take any additional steps, and that money will come the same way that those benefits come to you. Okay, so
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
Darrell, you had a question?
Yeah, real briefly. I noticed that the Congresswoman is working on student loan forgiveness. Is this going to be a possibility? How likely would this happen?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on not just the Congresswoman, but on the House passing that legislation or that resolution, and the Senate passing it too, right? So it's not just contingent on the Congresswoman. What she can do is advocate and ensure that we're letting people in DC know how important it is and how it could really benefit all of us. So as you mentioned, she is fighting for it. I can't give you any probability just because really does depend on the Senate and the House voting on it.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think that's the last question for you. Thank you very much, Destiny. Is Marianne Joyce still here from Senator Biaggi's office?
Yeah, I'm here. Hi, Jeremy.
Go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. It's Marianne Joyce from State Senator Alessandra Biaggi's office. I'm substituting in for Emily Vasquez. I put some of this information in the chat. I can put it in again if folks didn't see it, along with my contact information. Senator Rivera covered the budget pieces and all what's going on in Albany, so I'll just go straight to the district office. We're all working remotely, as everyone else seems to be. We all remain accessible by email and by telephone. The telephone number is the same as it always has been, 718-822-2049. We've set up a directory on the telephone, so if you're looking for a particular person, if you call the main number, just follow the prompts in the directory, and it'll ring through to their extension in their remote location. Let's see what else. We're fielding a very high volume of calls and emails asking for assistance in a range of areas. I'd say the major percentage, the largest percentage, is folks are having trouble getting through their unemployment insurance applications through the Department of Labor. So we've been fielding a lot of calls and emails about that, bringing those issues to the attention of the governor's office. And the state is slowly working their way through the backlog, working out the kinks in the system. If folks have issues with unemployment assistance, feel free to contact our office and we can try to troubleshoot them for you. We're getting calls about PPE, access to food, probably the same kind of calls that every other elected's office is getting, and we're trying to connect people up with the resources they need. The senator has been doing virtual town halls on different topics around the district. As the comptroller's office mentioned, she did one with Scott Stringer. She's done one for small businesses, one about rent issues. I don't think we have one coming up next week, but the ones she's done in the past, I believe they're all available for streaming on the Facebook page. And we are putting out a nightly email newsletter with updates from the city and state as they come in, and also cover a bit of Westchester County. We are trying to put as many resources in that newsletter as we can to connect people with whatever the issue may be. If anyone's interested in receiving the newsletter and is not getting it now, you can send an email to me at mjoyce, MJOICE, at nysenate.gov. I'll put my email in the chat again, and I'm happy to add you to our email list.
Okay, great. Unless there's any questions, we're going to move on to State Senator Bailey's office. I believe this is our last elected official, hopefully. Last but not least, Ronell, you there? Can you unmute yourself, Ronell?
Hey, this is
Marianne, can
Ronell
you
from
mute yourself?
Senator Bailey's office.
Hey, Ronell. Go ahead.
Hey, so our office has been very busy. Temporarily, we are working from home. So I provided the email in the chat if anyone has any constituent concerns. Earlier, Senator Bailey, along with with other elected officials such as Andrew Cohen, Councilman Andrew Cohen, Assembly Member Jeffrey Dinowitz, and many others that I can't name off the top of my head. You can watch the replay of the virtual town hall on Senator Bailey's page on Facebook. Also, Senator Bailey has been active in the community at this time. He has been in Co-op City delivering meals to many people, many residents, especially seniors. We also have a grab-and-go lunch for kids 18 and under at 1345 East Gun Hill Road. That's at Ultimate Grill. So many children, they're not in school, obviously, so they don't have access to school lunch. Many families cannot provide food for their children, but if you know of any families that need to feed their children, they could go to this location. They are open on Monday through Friday from 11:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. I could provide more details. And yesterday, he has also been out with Assembly Member Natalia Fernandez serving food in the, let me make sure which area that is. He's been serving food in the Parkside Houses residence. If you'd like to know any more information about things that Senator Bailey has been doing in the community, you can provide your email address and I'll add you to the mailing list. Thank you.
Okay, and I'm sorry, we one last person, Terence Miller from the Public Advocate's Office.
Hello, everyone. How are you? My name is Terence Miller. I'm the new Bronx Borough Liaison for the Public Advocate, and I just have a couple of updates. I'll be really quick. So the Public Advocate has called for a release of demographic data related to arrest and enforcement actions by the NYPD for violations of social distancing and mask mandates. In a letter to the mayor, the Public Advocate requested data on the number of summonses and arrests conducted related to COVID-19 mandates by race and zip code. He's also called for a task force to address the racial disparity of COVID-19 impact. He's pursuing legislation to create a task force, but the time it will take to enact the law is a time that the communities of color are being devastated by the crisis, and the people who are deemed essential but treated as expendable just don't have the time. And lastly, he's released a statement calling for vacant hotel rooms to be made available for thousands of homeless New Yorkers who are among the most vulnerable amid COVID-19 pandemic. So if you have any questions for me, please feel free to ask. I'll leave my email in the chat.
Oh, great. I think that concludes our elected official portion of the meeting. So let me share. So moving on, Chairman's report. Let me just pull up the screen real quick, if you can see it. So we have a motion to approve the February 2020 full board meeting minutes as distributed. I know they were published on the website, but we didn't actually vote on these. So actually, and there was no committee. I don't think this is made in committee. So does somebody want to make the motion, second it? Any board member?
I make the motion to approve the February 2020 minutes.
I second it.
Motion by Al, second by Joe Thompson. On favor?
Aye.
Any against? I know I don't want to mute everybody, but we'll come back to board members that are calling in. I will unmute all the board members calling in or attempt to. And then Al, let me pull up the motion for you. Do you want to maybe talk a little bit about this? This next one. You read that, Al?
Motion to request Senator Alexander Biaggi to service. Opposing.
Hold on, Al. Somebody's not muting. Anybody not speaking to mute their phones, please. I'm going to mute everybody, Al, then unmute you. You don't have to do. All right, Al, you're unmuted. Let me go back to. Do you need the motion again, Al?
Yeah, I gotta see it first.
Okay. Right. There you are.
The second motion is motion to request State Senator Alexander Biaggi send a letter, State Office of Addiction Services, and support an email opposing opposition regarding Carnegie Hill's proposal of 2,500.
So let me read that, restate that for everybody, because I'm not sure you got cut off. So the motion to
I don't see the end of it, but yes, certain parts of it.
what's that?
I got it now. Motion to request Senator Alexander Biaggi send a letter, send the New York State Office of Addiction Services reports an email or letter of opposition regarding Carnegie proposal for 2,500 Williamsbridge Road.
Yeah, let me just repeat it out because not everybody could hear it. Your mic kept cutting in and out. I mean, because some people are not seeing the computer screen. So a motion to request State Senator Alessandra Biaggi send the New York State Office of Addiction Services and Supports an email or letter of opposition regarding Carnegie Hill's proposal for 2,500 Williamsbridge Road. Anybody want to second that?
I'll second it, Jeremy.
Tony seconded it. Yeah, your mic's working great.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Any oppositions or abstentions? Otherwise, it's going to be declared unanimous.
And the next thing on my report is I just mentioned that Bridget Precioso, Vinny Precioso's wife has passed away. Just keep her and Vinny in your prayers.
So if you aren't able to hear that, Vinny Prezioso, Bridget passed away recently. Those of you who have the email should have received the email. Anything else, Al?
That's it.
Treasurer's report. Veronica, I know you emailed me a treasurer's report like right before the meeting. I asked Harriet if she could send it out. I don't know if she got a chance to send it out. Anything you want to state about it?
No, when you get the treasury report, if anybody has any questions, you can reach out to me directly. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
Okay. So my report, around 5 o'clock tonight. I got my February report on there. March, if anybody wants specifically March, I think April is going to be good enough. I don't want to go over the whole thing. It's just too much. I don't want to waste any more time for anybody. Let me just key points. Working remotely has clearly been a challenge. This meeting has clearly been a challenge. I have individually spent a lot of time with some board members getting to use these programs. I spent 3 hours with one board member last week with their computer issues. It's a lot of time in the beginning, but it's a long-term investment is how I see it. Kings Harbor, I've already sent out emails about that. I put more detail, the press release came up with, again, as I mentioned, to LT Valbrugge. There are at least 2 businesses in our district that have been violated for price gouging. I will send him those emails because he wants to know. Einstein Hospital, there was, I got to mute everybody again. I keep getting feedback. Okay. Einstein College, Einstein Hospital, Weiler Hospital officially. There's a nice article in the New York Times. I highly recommend you read about the struggles there. Stats, I've been continually posting stats. As some of you know, other information about the COVID-19. Street activity permits have been canceled up until June, up until July 1st. I don't know what's happening after July or after July 1st at the moment. Mail theft. Somebody, a community resident put in notified me, I think, yeah, me and Al. She sent an email to Al. She CC'd me about mail theft. She did not call 911. She didn't realize that she should have called 911 when she saw it in progress. Any crime in progress is a 911 call. She saw somebody fishing out of the mailbox. That is in my report. It is online. Budget cuts. So our office's budget is being cut by $4,000 this year, close to $9,000 next year. Now, the fiscal year starts July 1st. That's what I might mean by next year, July 1st. These are the first round of cuts. I wouldn't be surprised if there are more coming. And in terms of other agencies, Bronx House, I reached out to Bronx House, Bronx Zoo, DSNY, 49th Precinct, about who is or may not be getting cuts. DSNY, they've been doing really good with COVID-19. Only one person testing positive, and they are already recovered. And the composting program is the only thing that DSNY knows of so far with budget cuts. That program is being suspended for, I think, a year. So please, if you have any questions, please speak to me after the meeting so so this meeting doesn't go to 11 o'clock. Committee reports. I think, is that David Levitt? You're the chair of that committee?
Yes. So this is a motion to amend the bylaws of the community board to add a standing committee for ethics and disciplinary reasons. This was a mandate from the borough president's office to all community boards. The committee is already in place. The bylaws committee met on this issue in February and presented this bylaw change to the full community board in February. We did not meet in March, so it's now coming up for a vote. Are there any questions? If there are no questions, then I will ask, is anybody against this or is anybody abstaining? If nobody is against or abstains from this motion, then it will be listed as being unanimous. That concludes my report.
Great. And I guess for purpose, I guess because not everybody is able to talk and respond, David, I think we could probably, if anybody tells me after the meeting, oh, I want to, vote against this, I guess we'll just add that to the record, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Nominating committee, Hazel May, Al's appointed on nominating committee. We do have elections still. Hazel Muir has been appointed chair. A.H. Graley is part of the committee, and so is John Scutieri. Unless Hazel's on mute. I think Hazel wanted me to just say whatever needed to be said anyway. The positions that are up this year are chair, first vice chair, and secretary of the board. So in April and May, we do nominations. For any nomination, so nobody is automatic. The committee can make a recommendation, but I don't think they're prepared to at this point. So if anybody wants to make a nomination, make a nomination tonight for chair, first vice chair, or secretary. I think Tony Vitaliano already wants to go ahead. Tony, can you talk?
Hey, I want to nominate Al D'Angelo for chair.
Okay, so for that nomination to be valid, it has to be seconded. Does anyone like to second that nomination?
I second the nomination.
Okay, seconded by Veronica. Al, do you accept?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Any other nominations for chair? If there are no other nominations, we will close the nominations for chair of the board. First vice chair. Any nominations for first vice chair of the board? Anyone?
I nominate Tony Vitaliano for first vice chair.
Okay. Can I get a second? Can we get a second?
I second it.
Debbie Kolick, Mr. Vitaliano, you accept?
Yes, I do.
And then that would only, any other nominations for first vice chair? No other nominations. The nominations for first vice chair are closed. Sorry, somebody saying something? Nominations for secretary. Somebody's trying to talk. I can't understand you. Any nominations for secretary of the board? Oh. Any nominations for secretary? Third call. Any nominations for secretary of the board?
Nominate David Levin for secretary.
Nomination by Veronica Castro. Any second for that nomination?
I second it.
Okay, never mind.
Debbie Cowlick. David, do you accept?
I respectfully decline. It's been my honor to serve as secretary, but I'm not running for another term. I do appreciate the nomination, though.
Okay. Any other nominations for secretary? If there are none, you can do this in May. We can do this in May. Okay. No nominations. The nominations for secretary are closed. Then we will turn it over to Yahe Obid for public safety. Yahe, are you still with us?
Yeah, I'm here. Nothing really to add. I sent the minutes if you get a chance, or maybe they've been published. I have nothing else to add. Thank you.
Yes, we did receive them. We have not had time to touch them yet. Any old business?
Jeremy, can you hear me?
Diane.
Okay, I'd just like to make 2 points. One point is in the schools. Well, I'm over here by PS 105 in the high school down here. They do serve breakfast and lunch at these 2 schools. Any public school close to you should have breakfast and lunch. The second point is, I hope you parents are getting involved with the children's remote learning from school, seeing at least what the teachers are sending them to put on the computer. And I have a computer and I have a laptop. You have to have a computer and you have to have a phone. But sometimes your child does not have the equipment. But if you can call 311 or even through the community board, you can fill out an application so your child can receive a notebook, an iPad. I believe it's an iPad. They have to return it back though. So that if they don't have equipment to do the remote learning, they will send them a notebook for their learning. So you can embrace that and call 311 if you do need a notebook. That's all I want to say. Goodbye, everybody. I miss everybody.
Thank you, Diane. Any other old business?
I have something.
Andrew Siegel.
In light of all that's been going on with this COVID, I would like to have the idea of having a blood center revisited for. They keep saying they want blood donations, but how are we supposed to do that? A lot of us do not have cars, and we're not going to get on public transportation to go donate blood.
I second that.
I think maybe we should, the community board can now write another letter to the borough president and whoever to revisit the idea.
Okay, so you're making a motion, Andrea?
Suggestion. I don't know how you want to present this.
It's really up to you. It's really up to the board.
If she's making a motion, I second it.
But she doesn't know. So do you want to make a motion, Debbie?
Yes, I make a motion that the borough president revisits having a blood center in the Bronx.
Okay. Andrea, do you want to second that?
I second it, or whatever you want to do.
Okay. Any all in favor? Any against?
You still got me muted?
No, Dom, go ahead.
Nothing. I'm done now. I mean, everything was all over. Couldn't get through before.
Okay. So anyone against the blood bank? Requesting the borough president's office revisit the issue?
Revisit.
What's that? Darrell?
Perhaps you need to revisit the issue.
Who we do? The board?
No, the borough president.
All right. So Any against or abstentions? If not, it's going to be unanimous. It's going to be marked unanimous. Okay. Any other new business? Adjournment.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
I second.
Aye.
Aye.
Against. No.
Aye.
It's 9:23. No one's against.
Okay.
Everybody stay safe.
Thank you, everybody. This is obviously fun.
Everybody.
Thank you. Have a great one.
Have a good one. Bye.
Everybody be good. Have a great time at home.
Stay healthy.
Oh,
Thanks, Jeremy. Good night, folks. Stay safe.
everybody.
Thank you, Mark.
Good job, Jeremy.
Thanks for that. All right. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. I'm ending the meeting.
Well.
Hi, Chris.
Good night, guys.
Good night.
Good night.